All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video and the one player that the 49ers need to poach off another team's roster's practice squad. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, we're brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket chili, say hi to Damon and Mary, and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. Well, the 49ers have a loaded roster. John Lynch and Adam Peters and Kyle Shanahan have done a great job at putting together this roster. On a regular basis, they have one of the deepest rosters in pro football. So deep, in fact, that it's almost not worth looking at opposing teams' practice squads to see if there is a player that could help the 49ers on their 53-man roster. That's the rule in the NFL. If you want somebody else's practice squad player, you can take him, but you have to take that player and put him on your 53 active roster, and that's the kicker. You can't just take a guy from somebody else's practice squad and put him on your practice squad. One player that I really believe the 49ers ought to poach off the practice squad is McClendon Curtis, who's an offensive lineman who's on the Raiders practice squad. Let's talk a little bit about Curtis. Curtis is a behemoth of a prospect. 6'6", 330 pounds. He's got tackle size. He's got guard experience and tackle experience. He's got 35-inch arms. You know, the 49ers had Ilm Manning, who they found out of the University of Hawaii, and Manning had a great preseason until the Cardinals plucked him off the 49ers waiver wire at the cutdown. So now he's an Arizona Cardinal. The downside of Ilm was that even though he had left tackle experience, he really didn't have left tackle size. He had 32-inch arms. And so his future was at guard or center, and he needed development and reps at guard and center to be an effective guard or center. The Niners were hoping to squeeze him through the practice squad, the waiver wire, I should say, and get him on their own practice squad, and Arizona plucked him. So advantage Arizona, they get a good player. But the 49ers could really use a developmental tackle, and McClendon Curtis, I think, is it. I really only liked a couple of offensive linemen in the day 3 of the draft. One was Alex Palczewski, who went to Denver and had a great preseason. In fact, he was Denver's he started at tackle for Denver in some of the games in the preseason and made their final 53-man roster, and they think is a future starter for them on the offensive line. So Palczewski worked out. The other guy that I really liked was McClendon Curtis from Tennessee Chattanooga. And let's talk about Curtis. Pro Football Focus put out their top 5 offensive rookies in the preseason and their top 5 defensive rookies in the preseason. And the top 5 offensive rookies were Colts tight end Will Mallory, Raiders quarterback Aiden O'Connell, who all Niner fans could attest looked fantastic in the preseason game against the 49ers. Elijah Cooks, a wide receiver who played at San Jose State, who's now in Jacksonville. And then Curtis McClendon, the Raiders offensive lineman, got graded by Pro Football Focus as the highest graded rookie offensive lineman in the entire preseason. I love the guy. I think he's a tremendous prospect. 6'6", 330 pounds. 35-inch arms. This guy's got absolute vines for arms. He was an FCS All-American last year in 2022 for Tennessee Chattanooga. In addition to being a really good player at his level, he had a 4.0 GPA. In addition to having a 4.0 GPA, this guy's got really high character. He volunteers and works with kids at the YMCA in the off-season. He's a great guy all the way around. He can be a power blocker, but he's also a good zone blocker. He can play right guard today, but I think in the future, he's got a ton of potential to be your starting right tackle. He's got high character. He's a leader. He had, as I said, he had Pro Football's top rookie grade among all offensive linemen this preseason at 87.9. To put that in perspective, I mean, the guys that I would consider replacing McClendon with replacing and using McClendon to replace are Matt Pryor, who had a 44.9 Pro Football Focus grade last year, Jalen Moore, who had a 65.9 Pro Football Focus grade, and Nick Zakelj, who had a 53.7 Pro Football Focus grade. So he's great. He grades out much higher than 3 linemen that I think he could take the place of. To me, you put him on your 53-man roster and you let Chris Forster develop this guy. Forster's a terrific offensive line coach. This guy's a terrific offensive line prospect. Now, he's got a lot of development. He's never lived outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Grew up in Chattanooga, went to high school in Chattanooga, played 5 seasons with the Mocs. So, he's never really ventured outside Tennessee. But this guy played right guard for the Mocs. He also had 499 snaps at left tackle. He's got 10.25-inch hands. The Raiders, he went undrafted unbelievably in the draft, but the Raiders scouts saw enough in him to give him a $210,000 signing bonus as an undrafted college free agent. So there's no question he needs development. He needs to get stronger. He needs to get more technically sound. Those are the kinds of things that I think Chris Forster can help him with. But he played 5 years for the Mocs. He's an athletic player with great size. He gave up 0 sacks last year. He only gave up 5 quarterback hits all of the 2022 season. He was coached. He was on the same college program that produced Cole Strange, who went in the first round the year prior. And yet the Mocs offensive line coach says that it's Curtis and not Strange that's the greatest offensive line prospect he's ever coached. And his college coach went on to say that he felt like he was the kind of guy that you'd want your daughter to marry. So you're talking about a guy with high character, a lot of talent. He's got size 18 shoes, by the way. 6'6", 330, 35-inch arms, a lot to like here. To me, this guy is the guy that, if you're the 49ers, take this guy. There's a reason that you have Nick Zakelj on your roster right now. You have Zakelj on there because you believe in developing him long term. He's 6'6", he's 320, he's smart, he's tough. Well, guess what? McClendon Curtis is all those things as well, except he's not a future guard. He's probably a future right tackle. So you have Zakelj, you have Jalen Moore, and you have Matt Pryor. What I would do is, decide between Matt Pryor and Jalen Moore which one you really like. You got to have a veteran tackle that's ready to go right now, but use that other spot to develop a player like McClendon Curtis. If Jalen Moore or Matt Pryor were going to be spectacular NFL starting offensive linemen, it would have happened by now. They've already been in the league a number of years. Curtis has way more upside than they do, and to me, I would take him off of the Raiders practice squad right now. Now, it's rare that teams do this. There's almost like a gentleman's agreement that you don't poach players of other teams' practice squad unless you really need that player. But man, for the 49ers, this is the one spot with Trent Williams being an older player, with Colton McKivitz being kind of a question mark. They need to think about offensive tackle this year, but they need to think about offensive tackle next year. And so if you have Jalen Moore, if you have Matt Pryor, that gives you a backup offensive tackle that you can plug in for Colton McKivitz this year. But Curtis would be a guy that you could keep on your roster, develop him. He could be a backup at guard or tackle. And I think a year from now, he could be your starter at right tackle. 6'6", 330, 4.0 GPA, high character, good zone blocker, good collegiate production. If you're John Lynch, this is the guy that is worth plucking off another team's roster. All right, hope you enjoyed our video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. And thanks to all you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.